In toxic relationships, the pattern often begins subtly. At first, the partner may seem loving, attentive, and ideal. This stage, often called love bombing, floods the woman with affection, validation, and attention. It creates a chemical high in the brain through the release of dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, the same chemicals that make love feel euphoric. But as the relationship progresses, this affection becomes inconsistent. Suddenly, moments of warmth are replaced with criticism, gaslighting, or cold withdrawal. Just when she begins to feel abandoned, the abuser returns with affection, apologies, or promises to change. That moment of relief, of getting back what was lost, triggers a powerful emotional reward. The brain starts chasing that feeling again, hoping that this time it will last. This is the essence of trauma bonding, the emotional version of addiction. The unpredictability of love and pain keeps her hooked, much like a gambler who keeps pulling the lever, believing the next spin will finally win. Each cycle of hurt and reconciliation strengthens the bond instead of weakening it, making the woman feel more tied to her abuser over time. What makes trauma bonds so deceptive is that they mimic the highs and lows of passionate love. To an outsider, it might look like chaos, but to the person inside, those intense emotions feel like proof of depth, as if the relationship is special because it's dramatic. The woman often tells herself that no one else could understand the connection they share, that the pain makes the love real. This illusion blinds her to the truth. What she's experiencing isn't love, it's control disguised as care. Over time, the constant emotional whiplash destroys her self-esteem. She begins to feel that her worth depends on the abuser's approval. When he's kind, she feels safe. When he's cruel, she feels worthless. The line between love and suffering blurs completely. Even when she knows deep down that the relationship is toxic, the fear of losing the good moments becomes unbearable. The body literally craves the emotional release that comes after reconciliation, and that craving keeps her emotionally tied. Breaking free from trauma bonding isn't just about walking away, it's about rewiring the brain. It requires recognizing that what feels like love is actually emotional conditioning. Healing begins when she understands that the relief she feels after pain isn't proof of connection, but evidence of manipulation. Fear is one of the most powerful forces that keeps women trapped in toxic relationships, and it often operates on multiple levels: emotional, psychological, social, and sometimes even physical. While outsiders may look at her and think, why doesn't she just leave? The truth is that leaving often feels more terrifying than staying. Fear can disguise itself as love, loyalty, or even duty. And over time, it becomes a silent companion that controls every decision she makes. It's not always the fear of violence that holds her back. Sometimes it's the fear of being alone, starting over, or facing the unknown after years of emotional dependency. From a psychological perspective, toxic relationships erode a woman's confidence until she begins to believe she can't survive without her partner. A manipulative partner may repeatedly tell her she's nothing without him, that no one else will love her, or that she'll never find someone better. After hearing these words long enough, they stop sounding like threats and start feeling like truth. Her self-esteem diminishes, and her identity becomes so intertwined with the relationship that she can't imagine life beyond it. The thought of leaving, once empowering, now feels impossible, like stepping into darkness without a light. There's also a deep fear of loneliness that many women face. Society often teaches women that their worth is connected to being in a relationship, to being chosen or loved by someone. So even when love turns toxic, the idea of being single or rejected can feel unbearable. She might convince herself that staying in a bad relationship is better than having no relationship at all. The loneliness she fears outside becomes a justification for the pain she endures inside. This fear isn't weakness, it's the result of years of social conditioning that equates partnership with value. Then comes the fear of judgment and shame. Some women stay because they dread what others will say. Friends, family, or community members who might not understand. They worry about being blamed, criticized, or labeled a failure for leaving. Especially in environments where image and reputation matter, walking away can feel like public defeat. She might tell herself, maybe if I just try harder, people won't see what's really happening. This fear of exposure keeps her silent and compliant, hiding her pain behind forced smiles and excuses. And for many, there's the fear of escalation, the very real possibility that leaving could make things worse. Abusive partners often threaten harm, manipulation, or revenge if the woman tries to go. The fear of retaliation, of being stalked or hurt, becomes a cage that feels safer than freedom. Her survival instincts kick in, and staying becomes a way to avoid immediate danger, even if it means long-term suffering. Ultimately, fear feeds on isolation. The longer a woman stays, the smaller her world becomes. She stops talking, stops reaching out, and eventually stops believing she has options. But when she begins to see fear for what it is, a weapon used to control her, something inside her shifts. She starts realizing that fear doesn't mean she's weak, it means she's been surviving in impossible conditions. And that realization, quiet but powerful, is the first spark of courage that can one day help her walk away. Hope is one of the most deceptive and powerful emotions that keeps women trapped in toxic relationships. It's not just a feeling, it's a survival mechanism that convinces her things can get better if she just holds on a little longer. At the beginning of the relationship, the partner may have been loving, attentive, and full of promise. That memory becomes a beacon, a picture of how things used to be, and how she believes they could be again. Even after the relationship turns dark, she clings to that early version of him, convincing herself that the kind, affectionate person she fell in love with is still in there somewhere, just temporarily lost. This belief creates a powerful illusion that change is possible, even when every sign points otherwise. In a toxic relationship, hope often becomes a cycle of emotional highs and lows. When the partner apologizes after a fight, shows moments of gentleness, or makes small improvements, she sees it as progress, proof that things are finally turning around. But when the same behavior returns, she tells herself it's only temporary, that if she's patient enough or loves him hard enough, he'll eventually change for good. This pattern of hurt, hope, repeat becomes addictive. The small glimpses of good times feel like rewards, making her forget the pain that came before them. It's not naivety, it's a deep emotional conditioning where hope becomes a way to cope with constant disappointment. The danger of this kind of hope is that it distorts reality. Instead of seeing the relationship as it is, she starts seeing it through the lens of potential. She begins to confuse endurance with love and struggle with loyalty. Many women tell themselves that leaving would mean giving up too soon, that true love is about patience and forgiveness. They romanticize pain, believing it's proof of emotional depth. The toxic partner often reinforces this illusion by saying things like, "You're the only one who believes in me," or "You make me a better man." Those words give her a sense of purpose, as if it's her job to heal or fix him. In reality, it's a trap that keeps her emotionally enslaved. Hope also feeds on emotional memory. She remembers the early days, the laughter, the passion, the feeling of being chosen. and compares every bad moment to that idealized beginning. She convinces herself that if she can just behave differently, say the right things, or avoid conflict, those days will return. But they don't, because they were part of the manipulation, the bait that hooked her in the first place. Still, she clings to that fantasy because accepting the truth would mean admitting that the love she believed in was never real. Breaking free from false hope is one of the hardest parts of healing. It requires grieving the fantasy of what could have been and accepting the painful reality of what is. It's not about losing hope entirely. It's about redirecting it. Instead of hoping he'll change, she learns to hope for her own healing. Instead of waiting for him to become the man she deserves, she begins to believe she deserves better altogether. That shift from hoping for him to hoping for herself is where real freedom begins. Financial and social dependency are two of the most practical yet deeply psychological reasons many women remain in toxic relationships. While emotional factors like love, fear, and hope play a massive role, the reality of survival often weighs heavier. Leaving isn't always as simple as walking away. For many women, it means risking homelessness, losing stability, or being cut off from family and community. Toxic partners understand this power imbalance well, and they use it to maintain control. By limiting her access to money, isolating her from loved ones, or damaging her reputation, they make her feel like there is nowhere else to go and no one else to turn to. Financial dependency often begins subtly. The toxic partner may insist on managing the money for her own good, or discourage her from working, saying he wants to take care of her. At first, it may feel like love or protection, but over time, it becomes a cage. He might criticize her spending, make her ask for money, or track every purchase. This creates a power dynamic where he controls the resources and, by extension, her ability to make independent decisions. Without her own financial means, even the thought of leaving becomes terrifying. Where would she go? How would she pay for rent, food, or her children? The abuser counts on these questions to keep her frozen in place. Social dependency works in much the same way, though it's less visible. Toxic partners often isolate women from friends and family, subtly planting seeds of mistrust. They might say, "Your family doesn't really care about you," or "Your friends are jealous and want to ruin what we have." Over time, she starts to believe it, cutting off contact with the people who could help her. This isolation deepens her reliance on him, emotionally and socially. When the abuse becomes unbearable, she feels trapped not just by fear, but by shame and loneliness. She's been made to believe that no one would believe her story, or that everyone would judge her for staying so long. Cultural and social expectations can make this dependency even stronger. In many societies, women are taught that maintaining a relationship is a reflection of their worth. Divorce or separation may be stigmatized, making women fear judgment or rejection if they leave. Some are told that enduring hardship in a relationship is a sign of strength or loyalty. This societal pressure, combined with economic vulnerability, keeps countless women suffering in silence. Toxic partners exploit this by alternating between cruelty and care. They might apologize, offer financial help, or act loving right when she begins to think about leaving, reinforcing the illusion of stability. But it's never true stability, it's control disguised as kindness. Breaking free requires not just courage, but support, access to money, housing, and community. When women are empowered financially and socially, they rediscover their autonomy. They begin to see that security doesn't come from staying, but from reclaiming control over their lives. Once she finds that strength and support, dependency loses its power, and freedom becomes possible again. Lack of emotional safety and self-belief is often the final and most invisible barrier that keeps women locked in toxic relationships. Long after the physical or verbal abuse becomes evident, the psychological damage continues quietly beneath the surface. A toxic relationship systematically breaks down a woman's sense of identity, teaching her to question her worth, her instincts, and even her reality. By the time she realizes how deeply she's been affected, her self-belief, the very thing she needs to leave, has been eroded. She doesn't just fear her partner, she doubts herself. That inner confidence, once strong, is replaced by a constant voice whispering, maybe it's my fault, maybe I deserve this, maybe I can't do better. Emotional safety is more than the absence of conflict. It's the feeling that one can express themselves without fear of rejection, ridicule, or punishment. In toxic relationships, this safety is deliberately destroyed. Every argument, insult, or manipulation chips away at her sense of emotional security. She begins to anticipate anger before it comes, censoring her words, suppressing her feelings, and walking on eggshells to keep the peace. Over time, this becomes her normal state of being, hypervigilant, anxious, and disconnected from her true emotions. She learns that honesty leads to pain, so she stops being honest, even with herself. The relationship no longer feels like love. It feels like survival. This lack of safety slowly morphs into self-doubt. Toxic partners are skilled at gaslighting, a form of psychological manipulation that makes the victim question their memory, perception, and sanity. He might say, "You're overreacting. That never happened," or "You're too sensitive," until she starts believing it. The more she doubts her feelings, the more control he gains. She begins to depend on him not only for validation, but for interpretation of reality itself. Without emotional safety, she loses the ability to trust her own mind, and without self-trust, she can't make independent choices, including the choice to leave. The erosion of self-belief also affects her vision of the future. She stops seeing possibilities beyond the relationship because she no longer believes she's capable of creating a life on her own. Even if she dreams of freedom, her inner voice tells her she won't survive it. Healing begins when she starts to rebuild a sense of safety within herself, when she reconnects with her inner voice and realizes that her feelings are valid, her pain is real, and her worth has never depended on someone else's treatment of her. It takes time, support, and compassion to restore the self-belief that was stolen from her. But the moment she begins to see her strength again, even in small glimpses, she takes the first real step toward freedom. Because once a woman feels safe in her own mind and heart, no one can ever make her feel powerless again.